Hey, it's Jody Taylor, ShxtsNGigs.com. Welcome back to my podcast. I don't know why I was doing kind of like a drumming thing at the beginning. So today's a little bit different, a lot different in terms of sound, maybe because I'm using headphones for the first time. So let's see how that sounds. I'm curious how that's going to sound, if you'll notice any difference or if I'll notice any difference. Today's topic, I'll be chatting about some recent faves, and I also want to talk a little bit about my steps. I'll start with that. So my goal is to take 12,100 steps a day. Why 12,100? Because over time, over the last couple of years, I've been adding 50 steps, 100 steps, 200 steps to my goal. I started out with the obligatory 10,000 steps a day, and I've just been adding to it. This year, though, has been rocky. Like, I have just not been hitting my step goal, nowhere near it, for the first 3 months of the year. To wit, going into the last week of March, I had been doing this like check and cross system that I heard on a podcast. That I'm gonna put the podcast episode in the show notes. For some reason, I'm blanking on the name of the podcast, but the title of the podcast was, "When Did You Know Your Partner Was Broke?" which I thought was hilarious. But anyway, at the end of this episode, because it was about a whole bunch of other different things, obviously not about fitness based on the title, but at the end of the episode, they started talking about fitness. And one of the gentlemen described, he has a certain amount of things that he wants to get done for his health and fitness. And what he does is he will put... I'll talk about how I do it, and I got the idea 150% from him. If I hit my goal of 12,100 steps, I get a green check. I literally put a check over the number. I have a calendar that's like a month at a glance, the number being the date. And if I don't, then I use a pink pen and I draw a line through the date. So I did this after listening to this podcast episode for all of March and realized I was hitting my goal 3 times a week. It was really good. It was really helpful to look at that in black and white, or green and pink in this case. And yes, this information is available on my apps, but there's something about paper that makes me pay more attention to things. Like, it sticks in my head. And there's the action of actually ticking it off every day. So going into the end of March, I had one more week to go, and I was like, man, maybe I should do something about this. So my goal for the last week of March is to hit these steps every day. And what I decided to do, I have decided to do this many times in the past, but this is the first time I actually stuck to it every day for a week. What I decided to do was to hit half of my step goal every day before 9:30 a.m. And my theory was that if I did this and then I worked out later in the day, or I was just walking around, through the course of the day, I would hit those other steps. So for context, what was happening before is it'd be like 5 p.m. or 6 p.m. and I'd be like, man, I got like 5,000 steps to go. And it was difficult, depending on the weather, depending on my mood, depending on what was going on. It was difficult to get those steps in. And so that's why I was hitting 8,000 steps every day. So in theory, I thought this will work. And sure enough, it worked. I got, and like, let's say it depends, but on average, before I even go out the door, I'm already at about 2,000 steps, sometimes less, but generally I'm at least 2,000 steps. So all I really need to do is get 4,000 steps and change. And I found that depending on how fast I walk, we're looking at 30 minutes. Like today I went out and it was a solid hour because I just could not get myself to do more than a stroll. And the point is not really to be out there with my heart racing. The point is to get the steps in. And so I took a casual approach, a very casual approach this morning. So yeah, I did that for a week and I got all green checks. And now we are in April, going towards the end of April. And yeah, man, it's looking good. I got all green checks from the last week of March to now. So what does this have to do with you? If you're trying to figure out how to bump up your step count, here is maybe a way that you can consider. Try it and let me know if it also works for you. Because the rest of the day, I'm not struggling to get like at 4, 5, 6 p.m. If I have steps that I still need to hit, like the number is something like 500, 1,000. Yeah, so just something to consider. Let's get into the recent faves. I ended up talking about that longer than I thought I would. So this is some recent faves. Number 1, Chapstick lip balm. S'mores collection, which I feel like I spoke about a few years ago, maybe in a newsletter. This is like the best $2 that I ever spent. If you like s'mores or if you like these scents, there are 3 chapsticks that come in the pack. It's chocolate, graham crackers, and marshmallow. You got it, s'mores. I just love the scent so much. Now, are these like, is it the best moisturizing lip balm? No, it's not. You're going to have to, or maybe it's just me, but I feel like I have to apply it frequently, but that's cool because I will put all 2 or 3 on at the same time. I just love the scents. If you want a moisturizing chapstick, I'm going to strongly recommend my other fave, which is the Carmex Medicated chapstick. Not their like ointment like lip balm. I don't like that one. I used to use the tins, like the little round tins. Those are great. But I feel like the chapstick is better. It's certainly more convenient, because you don't have to put your it already has like the application. You can apply it because it's in the tube. So that's chapstick number 1. Number 2, Merriam-Websters Dictionary Podcast. I don't even remember how I came across this, but I love it. When I used to have a paper version of a dictionary, I would always go through it and like highlight like interesting words or words I didn't know. And I still do that. Like if I hear a word, I'll like Google it. Foreign languages, the same thing. I'm always curious about the etymology of a word. Like where's the word from? What's the origin? How was it used? Like, there are words that might have a evil context. I don't know why I picked evil context, but maybe it started out with a different meaning back in the day. These podcast episodes are about 2 minutes or less. They're really short, and I actually don't always listen to the podcast episodes. Sometimes I just read the show notes to learn about the etymology of the word. And even if it's a word that I think I know the 2 most dangerous words in our vocabulary, because even if I think I know something, I usually learn something new or something I didn't know. And sometimes I think a word means one thing and it means something else, or I think it's pronounced one way. How many times, if you've listened to this podcast more than once, you have heard me say, I feel like I say every episode, like, I don't know if that's how it's pronounced. So sometimes I make up pronunciations in my mind, like the word ennui. It's ennui, ENNUI. That's a word that I use like in my head, and in my mind it was pronounced like ennui, but I think it's ennui. Anyway, that's an example. So it's really I like it. It's a quick little brain health jolt, and it reminds me of words. It's like a little 2-minute lesson. Love it. Next is ShuoShuo Chinese YouTube channel, ShuoShuo. Of course, I'm mispronouncing it. I came across this accidentally, another happy accident. I've been studying Chinese about 4 months now, pretty much since the new year started. I use an app called Hello Chinese, and I study about 10-15 minutes a day. This is the most enjoyable experience that I've had learning a foreign language, because I'm keeping it real breezy. Early days, I started, because I like to overdo things sometimes, I started to look like, well, how long would it take me to be fluent in Chinese? And I think the answer was something incredibly discouraging to me anyway, like 5 years or 7 years. And I had come across someone who was like, I've been studying for 10 years. And what I'm learning is, I'm like, yo, you still studying 10 years in? You don't have it yet? Oh my gosh, is it going to take me 20 years? So I immediately abandoned that line of thinking and was like, I'm not going to worry about grammar. I'm not going to worry about it. I'm just going to keep it breezy. So I kept it breezy. And doing that has made me more curious now, a few months in, like about grammar points and, you know, when to say something and how to say something. And so I came across this YouTube channel, and she has really great tips, approachable tips. I'll probably sign up for her courses in the near future. She just seems like she makes Chinese approachable, and I'm not going to say fun, interesting. That's the word I'm looking for. Interesting. I like her teaching style, and her videos are between like 8 and 15 minutes. She has a really great one where she's just saying 50 common Chinese phrases that you can listen to. I've been listening every day for about almost a week. And sure enough, just like learning any other language, just like how you learned your native language as a kid, you just heard the same thing over and over and over again, right? So he or she suggests listening to the video for like a month, and it'll improve your comprehension skills. And I can attest to that because I did that with Korean, and it's something I wish I had done a lot earlier. But if you just listen and watch TV and not worry about identifying things and grammar points and just listen, you'll learn a lot faster, at least in my experience. And that's what she says too. So check her out if you're interested in learning Chinese. And if you're not interested in learning Chinese, but another foreign language, my number one tip, if I may be so bold, because I don't actually speak any other language besides English fluently, but my number one tip would be to listen, like just have that foreign language on podcasts, YouTube videos. She said something, maybe in the video that I just referenced, but she said something like, don't try to listen to Chinese dramas for pronunciation, which I thought was interesting. She said that they speak differently, not like how everyday Chinese native Chinese speakers would speak. And I've been thinking, like, is that true about like American soaps, like soap operas or dramas? I don't feel like actors speak all that differently. The jury's still out. I'm still not sure about that, but I immediately started listening to some, she gave some links to like Chinese reality shows, and I immediately was like, yeah, I see what she's saying. It does sound totally different. First of all, it's like 100 times faster. That's how it sounds. And that made me think, like, is that how English sounds? Like, to someone who's not a native English speaker? And it also makes me think, like, right now, am I speaking too quickly if English isn't your native language? If you're listening and English isn't your native language, let me know. Maybe I am speaking too quickly. She also pointed out, again, I'm not sure if it's the same video, that sometimes there's the language you learn in a textbook, and then there's like how people speak. And I've noticed that because I consume a fair bit of content from folks who are Chinese and Korean, and the words that they use in English are correct, but somehow, not every word, like just things will, I'm trying to think. I just saw an example of this yesterday. But sometimes they'll use a word that is correct, yet awkward, that you wouldn't say. Like, oh, I know what it was. It was someone who was like, shop with me at the supermarket. And she was like, I'm going to procure some groceries, which, yes, you are procuring it. But usually, I think a native English speaker would say, like, I'm going to pick some groceries up. I'm going to go get some groceries. They wouldn't use the word procure, which is correct, but a little awkward. So that's what it's like. That's been my experience learning foreign languages over the years. Like, you learn it one way, and then you go to that country, or you're speaking to someone or trying to speak to someone. I've said several times, like when I was in Korea and I would go order coffee, they'd be like, oh, she's trying to say something. What do you think she's trying to say? You know, it's totally different. Anyway, so that was number 3. And then last but not least, I've been drinking K-Cups, K-Potty Pops, K-Cup coffees, you know, that you use with the Keurig coffee machines. And I've tried so many over the last few months, and I finally have a favorite. Number 1, to me, all K-Cup coffee basically smells amazing, has an amazing scent, but few of them actually taste really good. Have you noticed that? Is it just me? Newman's own Organics Newman Special Blend. Say that 10 times fast. Extra bold medium roast coffee. The scent is really good and it tastes good as well. So that's my, that wraps up my recent faves. Yeah, that's about it. So chatted about my tips for adding steps and like hitting your step goal. And, I mentioned my step goal. You can figure out what your own step goal is and what's attainable for you. Like I saw someone post on YouTube. I'll see if I can find that link and put in the show notes that she hits about 4,000 steps a day. And that's what she can do. Like there are limitations, whether it be your schedule, physical limitations. You might have physical limitations. Just do what you can do and what's reasonable for you. That's my not professional or medical advice, just putting it out there. I'm going to add something else related. So I usually work out for 60 minutes, 70 minutes, something like that. And I had a period of time where I was working out last year about 30 minutes a day. And guess what? It didn't affect my fitness at all. So sometimes there's like what we want to do, which let's call that gravy or a cherry on top. And then there's what we're able to do with our time and our schedule or maybe our mood. Frankly, sometimes I have 70 minutes, but what you're going to get is 30 minutes. In theory, I could have walked quickly this morning, could have had a fast walk, get the heart racing, but I just was not feeling it. And so what could I do? So a question to ask if you're trying to figure out your step goals is, what can I do? And keep in mind what your ultimate goal is. So if you want to get sun, I certainly went through a phase where I really need to get my vitamin D up. I now take a vitamin. My mom got me these D3 vitamin supplements. So in addition to D3, I need to get out into the sun. And so I had a goal, like in the middle of winter, to stand outside for at least 5 minutes. Sometimes I do 30 seconds, run back in. It was cold. Run back out. So just think about where you are and what your goals are. So if you just want to get sun, right? You're just standing outside. Standing outside, I was never going to hit 10,000 steps, but my goal wasn't to hit 10,000 steps. My goal was to get some sun. So think about what your goal is like in this moment and what your long-term goal is, and then you can bump things up. Okay. Whew, man, this is what? Oh my gosh, I've been talking for almost 20 minutes, just chitty-chatting. All right, if you got this far, I appreciate you. Thanks for listening. If you'd like to help spread the word, if you'd like to help support my content, please share this podcast episode or the Snacky Says podcast episodes, any of your favorites. I'd really appreciate it. Thanks for listening. This is Jody Taylor of SnackySays.com.